LaToya Jackson, sexual and physical abuse within her world-famous family was a personal tragedy. But when she went public with her story, it shocked millions. The image of America's first family of show business, an image that started with the success of the Jackson 5, was shattered. LaToya's parents continued to deny their daughter's allegations, but a private investigator found someone to corroborate them. He's a former Jackson 5 band member who also lived in the Jackson home. Today, for the first time, he supports LaToya's charges of abuse. And now, please welcome LaToya Jackson. I love you. You really did shock a lot of people when you talked about the verbal and physical abuse within your family. And what you're about to talk about is really even more shocking because you say you were sexually abused by your father.
Yes, my sister and myself were both molested by my father.
When did it start?
Gosh, it started ever since I can remember, actually, with my sister, because she's so much older than I am, and we slept in the same bed. So I recall him getting in the bed with us and doing the acts with her. And my mother would say sometimes, "Joe, not tonight."
Your mother knew?
Oh, yes, my mother was very much aware of it. And then there were times when my sister couldn't take it anymore, and she would ask my mother to go get help for him, psychological help. And she refused to do that. And eventually my sister just decided that she wanted to leave home, that she could not deal with it anymore, so she left home.
You're talking about... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
That's my sister, Ruby.
Right.
And that's when he started sexually abusing me, when she left home.
But you were very young when it started.
Very young, yes.
And how long did it go on?
It went on for a couple of years. It went on basically my entire life. But of course, it went from that to verbal, if you know what I mean, which could be, it's so emotional as well. Verbal, because the things are so terrible when you hear them say certain things to you. And when you're in a room alone together. And I didn't like that. That went on, that continued actually until I left home.
Verbal abuse can be even more devastating sometimes than physical because it hurts. It leaves an impression in your head that doesn't go away.
But there was so much verbal. It was verbal in a sexual way and just verbal in general, and also the physical abuse as well.
Tell us more about your mother's, conspiracy of silence about this? Did you ever talk to your mother about this?
Yes, I did. I spoke to my mother about it a couple of years ago when I couldn't take it anymore, and I asked her for help. I said, "Mother, I need help. Please help me. I just want to know one thing. Why is he doing this to me? Why did he do these things?" And she answered me by saying, "Yes, your father did these things. He was sick at the time, but you're not supposed to talk about it. You're not supposed to mention it, and don't you ever mention it again." And I called her again. I said, "But you don't understand. I need help. I need to know why. I need to know something. Please help me." Because you get to a point in your life where you can't cope anymore. You're thinking about it constantly. And I couldn't deal with it. And I kept reaching out for help because she was my best friend. So I turned to her for help. And she wouldn't do anything about it. And she kept saying, "If you ever mention this to the public, I will deny it. And I will call you a liar, and they won't believe you."
You were very close to your mother. You were, you and Michael were the last to leave the family home. What did that say to you when she wouldn't help you?
It hurt me a great deal because, after all, she was my best friend. We did absolutely everything together. I mean, my brothers and people who were friends with the family would call me the shadow because we were so much together. I was like her shadow. And when she turned on me in that way, it just hurt so badly. I didn't know what to do. I just said to myself, there must be other kids out there that are going through the same thing, and I need to reach out and try and help them get through this as well. Because it's a terrible experience. It leaves a scar for a lifetime.
Let me just ask you, because I had read a quote from your husband, manager, Jay. He said you were repeatedly raped and that you're a very sad woman because of it. Is that a fair?
Well, at a young age, my father engaged in that with me when I was much younger. As I got older, no, because he could go out and get any girl he wanted. However, sexually, verbally, it continued. He would say terrible things to me if we were alone in the room. "You know you want this, come over here and get it." Things like that he would say to me as I was older. But younger, children don't have a lobby, so we can't say no. But as an adult, we have a choice to say yes or no. But even as an adult, I couldn't say no when he said things like that because my parents were so strict. that we weren't allowed to really say no or anything. So I just had to listen to him talk to me like this, and I'll dare walk out the room. He'd grab me and beat me if I were to walk out the room while he's talking to me. So I just had to take these things from him.
You also probably still wanted his approval, which is what I've heard a lot of incest survivors say. No matter what he did to you, you still wanted him to love you.
Well, he was my father. I didn't really know this man. No one actually knew him. None of my siblings really knew him. I think they know him more today and better today than they did back then.
Have you talked to Reby about this, to any of your siblings about this since this happened? Did they know this was going on?
Well, Reby definitely, because we slept in the same bed, so she knew I knew about her. And eventually Reby and I spoke about it, and we talked about it on the phone. And she asked me a question, and she says, LaToya, I want you to be very honest with me. She says, I've been away from home for years. This is almost, I think, 20 years now. She's been away from home for years, and she says, I've watched your behavior. I notice you stay in your room. You're very quiet. When Joseph, we call her Father Joseph. When Joseph walks in the room, you walk out. She says, please answer me this question. Did he sexually molest you the way he did me? And I was so embarrassed. I couldn't answer her. I just said, Reby, there's certain things you just don't talk about, isn't there? And she just said, okay, then did he do it to Janet? And I said, I can't speak for Janet. You have to ask her, which, in fact, I can't speak for her. But later on, I realized that I probably shouldn't, it's probably wrong of me, but I started blaming Reby, because if she knew this, why didn't she come and try to save me sooner if she knew this was going on? Why did she wait 20 years to come up and ask me this question? Not that I'm blaming her, but it's just that why let a man do this to me? And she knew about it.
You haven't really gotten any public support from your family members, and I know that at one point you went on the Phil Donahue show to talk about this, and your parents, I believe, phoned in, and I think we have a clip of that. Let's take a look at it.
Why are you beating me? You drag her to the bathroom. She says there's blood. Your mother came in and silently cleaned my cuts and bruises before tucking me in next to Reby. I promised, she said to herself, I'll never make him angry again. I did start speaking up in class, and I became a perfect child, which is the way abused children respond to this. This didn't happen, Joe?
No, it did not, Phil. It did not happen. And I don't know anything about that, and Catherine can bear with me.
It's all lies, Phil. It's not the truth.
What's your reaction when you hear it's a pack of lies?
It hurts. When I hear them say that, it hurts more than anything else, because they know it's the truth. And mainly, they're not helping anybody out there. There are so many children that are being abused today, and that's the whole point of this, to make people aware of it, to bring awareness to it, so children can speak out at a young age and not wait too late in life like I did, because it leaves a scar for a lifetime, and it's terrible.
Based on reading your book, you were scarred in a lot of ways. You did become the good girl because you didn't want to rock the boat. You didn't want to...
I didn't want to do anything wrong, no.
You wanted to be good. You wanted maybe not to be noticed.
Well, you had to understand my father. My father was a very mean man. He wasn't a nice person at all. And you couldn't do anything right. You couldn't say anything right, no matter what. So I remained silent. I didn't say one word. I was very quiet and very shy.
A lot of incest survivors block out the memories of being sexually molested by a father figure, by a loved one. Do you remember how you felt when he did this to you?
Oh, yes.
How did you feel?
I never blocked anything out.
How did it make you feel about yourself?
I had no self-esteem all my life. I felt dirty. I felt unclean. I felt guilty. I felt like I was doing something wrong. I felt like everybody out there knew, which in fact they couldn't have known because they weren't there. They weren't in the same bed with me and my father. But you just feel these things. I don't know if it's something that works on you mentally, emotionally, but you feel these terrible thoughts and you think them constantly. And it's a terrible feeling. And I just would continuously shake constantly, my entire body, and I couldn't control the shaking. I would have to put my hands down to stop the shaking all the time when I would think about what my father would do. But I kept it very quiet. It's something you don't discuss with other people, other members of the family, and I never did.
Why did you leave it out of the book?
I didn't want to hurt anyone in the family. Writing the book was basically to show to everyone in the world that we need to really bring this out in the open, this taboo subject of child abuse. I could have written about molestation. I could have written about all those things. However, I chose not to. I felt that I could help people without probably saying that. But when my parents get on television and they deny it and it hurt so badly, that's when I decided to speak out and say, okay, I'm going to go all the way. I had no intentions of doing that. If you've read my book, you will see that it's very kind to everyone in the family.
It's very kind.
Everyone. There's reasons for everything, because I believe there's a reason for everything in life. My father did that probably for a reason. Why? I don't know.
You still don't know to this day why?
No, I don't know why.
But it's got to be tough on you. I mean, I see it in your face. You're trying to help other people, and that's really an admirable kind of goal. It's got to be tough on you personally to keep talking about that.
It is. It's tough. It hurts a lot, but you try to block it out when you talk about it. I'm sitting here and I'm talking to you, but I don't want to think about it. I don't want to picture it, because it becomes very emotional at that point. And sometimes I can't sit here and talk to you. It becomes that emotional because it gets next to me. So I just put that to the side.
But it's more important to you to try and help other people?
If you knew what I went through as a young child and growing up as an adult until a couple of years ago, it's terrible to just hide constantly, wondering if people know. Just a terrible feeling. You have no self-esteem. You feel useless and worthless. However, coming from a well-known family like I did, we were always in the media. And we had to smile and pretend like everything was okay, and that's exactly what we did. Even though it wasn't okay, it was terrible.
I know this whole thing has divided your family based on what I just at least heard your parents say. Do you ever have hopes of having the image that everybody held out of the all-American perfect family? Do you ever hope of coming together with your family again after what's happened to you?
Well, I don't know about the all-American perfect image, because that could never happen. That's been totally, that's been a facade for years now, that we were never the perfect family. We pretend to be. We knew how to pretend to be, too. We knew how to smile when the cameras were on. And the minute those cameras were off, no one was smiling. Everybody walked away. No one spoke to my father. Everybody was terrified. But yes, I do hope eventually that one day that we can all get together and everything will be fine, because they're my family. However, I do understand that I do come from a dysfunctional family, and there are things that need to be straightened out, and they need to realize this. And they're very much aware of it. I have siblings who have spoken to me about this, but they want to remain anonymous. And you have to give them that respect.
Have you forgiven your father?
My father, it's sort of a hard question to answer. When you say, have I forgiven him? I should probably answer you by saying that I blame my mother more than my father, because I think if any man who's sleeping with his daughter and the wife is standing there and she's part of my blood and he's not, and she allows him to do this to her daughter, something's wrong. Something's wrong with the man. How could she stay with him like that? This is her daughter. Leave him, like my sister asked. Leave him, do something, go somewhere. But she chose not to. She chose to stay right there and watch him do that. Why, I don't know. I'm sure there are a lot of reasons. Perhaps she would prefer to see him with the daughters than another lady on the street. I don't know.
Okay. Didn't mean to upset you.
No, it's all right.
You okay? All right. Next, we're going to meet a private investigator who went to the Jacksons' hometown of Gary, Indiana. He says he found witnesses to corroborate LaToya's story of sexual abuse. We'll be back.
Unforgettable.
Nothing brings back memories like the music you love. And nothing brings back your favorite hits of the 50s like your hit parade from Time Life Music. You'll get legendary artists like Perry Como.
Don't let the stars get in your eyes, don't let the moon break your heart.
See the
Joel Stafford. Nat King Cole.
They try to tell us we're too young.
Doris Day.
Whatever will be, will be. chances are
Johnny Mathis,
'cause I wear a silly grin.
the Mills Brothers.
Shine, little glow,
And the memories begin with 24 all-time hits from 1954.
Hey there,
Rosemary Clooney,
you with the stars in your eyes.
Tony Bennett,
Take my hand, I'm a stranger in paradise.
the Chordettes.
Mr. Sandman.
Call now to get 24 of your favorite hits from 1954 at the special price of just $9.99 for compact disc or double-length cassette. Then audition other great Hit Parade albums, each for 10 days free.
Fairy tales can come true. It can happen to you if you're young at heart.
So call now and relive the romance.
To order Hit Parade 1954, use your credit card and call 1-800-243-9222 or send $9.99 for one double-length cassette or one compact disc, plus $3.50 shipping and handling to Hit Parade 1954, P.O. Box 1880, Department V6, Alexandria, Virginia.
We're back talking with LaToya Jackson, who says she was sexually abused by her father. Joining us now is Jim McGilvray. He's a private investigator who went to Gary, Indiana to see if anyone there would corroborate LaToya's allegations. And Jim, before we talk with you, let me ask you, LaToya, did you or your sister Reby tell anybody about the incest?
I didn't tell anyone about it. However, Reby did. She had spoken to someone. Actually, she moved out of the house, and she moved with the Jehovah's Witness, a very old lady, I recall, during that particular time. And she also confided, I think, in some of her peers at school.
Now, Jim, you did travel to Gary. You spent 2.5 days there, it's my understanding. What did you find out when you went there?
Well, I spoke with several people and did find out some information. I spoke with somebody who works for the school department and found that she wouldn't speak because she didn't want to hurt her friends. She made promises to her friends.
Well, did she know the Jacksons? She knew the Jackson family?
She knew the Jacksons, yes, and she knew Reby.
She was a friend of Reby's?
I don't know if she was a friend or not, but she said that she knew her and that she wasn't going to talk because she had made promises to friends and she wasn't going to give any more information.
And what else did you find out?
Well, I called, I went from there to I spoke with the minister from the Jehovah's Witnesses, the local one that the Jacksons went to. And at first he said that he didn't know the Jacksons at all, that he'd only spoken to them just one time. And he took them to a convention in Chicago. After talking with him for a few more minutes, he said that he knew that Reby had lived with an older woman who was now dead. And I directly brought it up about sexual allegations, and he said that, well, the only thing that he knew was just what he had heard, and it was all hearsay, and he didn't know exactly what the truth was. And he refused to talk to me anymore.
And was there anything else that you talked to anyone else? In other words, were you getting a feeling that people knew about this but had been, like, what, intimidated into not talking?
I get the opinion that everybody out there is in awe of the Jacksons, like people are of Kennedys and something, that the Jacksons couldn't possibly do anything wrong. That nobody would speak about the Jacksons at all. I don't know if there was a payoff or whatever, just that they were in awe. The police department were not helpful at all. I went there and they said they couldn't look up records because they changed and went computerized, and they had no way of doing it. The woman who could do that was on vacation. They couldn't look up the microfilm. They couldn't look up the computer records. Apparently, only one person knows how to do that in Indiana.
All right. Well, so you basically got the runaround. Let me ask.
Completely.
Let me ask you, LaToya. I mean, this doesn't surprise you what you're hearing. Your family is powerful. People are in awe of them.
No, it's not surprising whatsoever. As a matter of fact, I recall my sister calling the police at one point, and that's when my manager had reached out and said, well, why don't we call the police department in Indiana? Because they should have a record of that. Whenever you call the police, they have a record of it. And he called the police department, and they said, I'm sorry, we have no files on the Jackson whatsoever. They've all been destroyed.
Ronnie, you were a keyboardist with the Jackson 5 for what, a good number of years?
Yeah, about 10 years, 10 years.
And at one point you lived with the family?
Yeah, in California.
Now, this is a terrible thing.
It is.
Does it surprise you when you hear LaToya talk?
Not really, because I don't really put anything past Joseph.
What does that mean?
Well, I've seen him on occasions, like, I remember one time in Gary when we were rehearsing, and the mother fixed a nice dinner, and everybody was sitting down, commiserating and having fun and talking about going to, I think it was the Apollo Theater to do a gig there, and it was like 0 outside. And Joseph said, I want some Kool-Aid. He said, Jermaine, go down to the store and give me some Kool-Aid. Jermaine said, man, it's cold outside. And Joseph took an army spoon and bam, hit him across the head, sent him out the door in the cold.
So you're saying he was physically abusive to his children. You saw that happen.
With an army spoon, you know, big stirring spoon.
Yeah. That aside, how did he treat LaToya, from what you saw?
From what I saw, like LaToya said, she tried to stay to herself. Okay, she was real quiet. She was like mother's shadow. But then whenever a guy would come around and talk to LaToya and take her on a date, Joseph would hit the ceiling. You had to scrape him off. It was like, it was wild. Even one time, I was trying to teach her how to swim. And he went off. It was more like, hey, this is my girl, man.
Sounds like a jealous boyfriend rather than a father.
Like a jealous boyfriend more so than a father.
Was he like that when you started to have attention from other men? Was he jealous?
Well, he didn't allow me to do anything. I don't recall it being, I don't know if I should phrase it jealousy or not, because you don't see it that way. But I do recall him not wanting me to do anything with anyone. He just basically wanted me to himself.
You all had sort of a reclusive life. You didn't have a normal life where you could go out like other people.
No, it wasn't normal.
Now, why did you wait so long to get out of the house, LaToya?
Sometimes it takes a lifetime. I tried to leave several times, actually. And my parents are very good with throwing these guilt trips on you, saying you can't leave the house, you're a Jackson, and somebody's going to follow you, and they're going to kidnap you. And my father, he took my luggage, and he threw it back in the room, and he threw me in the room, and he closed the door and said, you're not going anywhere. And this went on continuously throughout my life when I tried to leave. And now I look back on it, and I say, how silly, why didn't you just get up in the night and just go? But he always said, if you left, I'd find you and bring you right back home, so it doesn't pay to leave.
Have you gotten any kind of professional help trying to work through what you've been through?
Yes, I have, but not on a continuous basis because I've been traveling so much, so I do it whenever I can.
Is it tough? It's tough to go through those sessions.
I don't think people realize how tough it really is when you go through it. And you think that writing a book like this is catharsis for you because it brings out so much and you feel free and you feel cleansed. And then when you start going to a therapist for this, she starts digging deeper into it. And it becomes so strong and so powerful that I wasn't able to handle it. And I just found myself just crying terribly because she would say things like, when your father was doing this, what was the expression on your mother's face? How did she look? And you start visualizing all these things that you forgot about at that particular time. You had really forgotten about the expression on her face and like the smirky smile. And I just started crying, and she says, no, go ahead, cry. This is what you're supposed to do. Let it all out. Get it over with so you don't have to deal with this ever again in life. But I couldn't. I couldn't deal with it. It was too emotional for me. And then I tried again, of course.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to meet a 12-year-old girl who can probably relate to your pain because she was sexually molested by her godfather. She spoke out, and now he's behind bars. We'll hear her story next.
Fat women starving for love.
Boys don't like fat girls.
It's a real sensitive issue.
On the next Jane Whitney Show.
You can go one-on-one with the Golden State Warriors.
And a real all-star like Mickey Mouse.
Join the Warriors on a summer vacation to the Walt Disney World Resort in Florida. Party with the players at special events and private receptions. Experience the Magic Kingdom, Epcot Center, and the Disney MGM Studios theme park. You'll fly Delta Airlines and stay at Disney's Contemporary Resort. Call now for reservations.
Go for it, Mickey.
A summer vacation with Mickey Mouse and the Warriors from KNBR 68 and KPIX TV.
Take the time to taste the Welch's. Take the time to roll it round. Savor all that Concord flavor. Let it trickle slowly down.
Welch's Grape Juice. We've spent 100 years getting ready for this moment. So don't rush it. It deserves to be savored.
Take the time to taste the Welch's.
I'm a Californian.
So if you make a sports sedan for me...
Don't stereotype me. Respect me.
Make it worth my money.
Price it right.
Make it a Buick Regal sedan.
Ranked best in price class by J.D. Power and Associates.
It's outranking all domestic and foreign cars in its class. Make it the new California Regal with a powerful 3800 tuned port injection engine,
anti-lock brakes,
leather seating areas,
air,
stereo,
and more. Making it a great value
at $17,999
at your California Buick dealer.
Hello, I'm Kate Kelly. In support of Bay Area education, KPIX and Sprint present the Bay Area Children's Art Exhibition, 100 Innovations That Shaped America. The toothbrush first appeared in a Chinese painting in the 15th century, but life didn't imitate art until the nylon toothbrush was developed in the 1930s. When did the electric toothbrush come along? You'd be surprised. Find out when you visit the Bay Area Children's Art Exhibition, 100 Innovations That Shaped America, at a school near you.
LaToya Jackson has told us how she was sexually abused starting at the age of 9. Desiree was 10 when she was sexually molested by her godfather. We welcome her along with her mother, Wayanne, and her attorney, Gloria Allred. Desiree, you're a very courageous young woman. You're a very feisty young woman. And I've read some of the things you've written about how what happened to you made living hell out of your life for a number of years. Can you tell us what it's like to be molested by somebody you've known and trusted like a father since you were a child?
It's horrible. You think you can trust someone, and then he goes and turns away from you and does that to you. It's very horrifying, and it's scary.
It's scary? Do you know why it's scary?
Well, because sometimes thoughts go through your minds, like maybe he'll touch you again, or he'll do something to your family.
This happened one summer when you were over at this man's house, your godfather Richard's house?
Yes.
And he had a daughter, still has a daughter, Christine. You were staying over and he came into your room?
Yes.
And what did you think when it happened at the time?
Too many thoughts were going through my mind. I really wasn't thinking anything except for, why is he doing this? Or what is he doing? It was scary for me to think that he would do that to me.
Did you tell anybody after it happened?
No, I didn't.
Why not?
I was too scared. I thought that if I told my family or anyone else, he would hurt them, even though he never said that he would.
How did it eventually come out into the open? Why did you tell?
In the summer of 1991, he attempted to for the second time, and it scared me really bad, and I just couldn't put up with it anymore, so I told my father.
And did he do something about it?
He confronted him. Richard denied it, and then he took me home that day.
But your mother got involved, and what did you do, Wayanne?
I picked her up from her father's house the next day, and we had her checked and filed police reports against Richard.
But is it your ex-husband?
Yes.
Didn't believe that this had happened because this was his good buddy and they'd been lifelong friends?
It's very hard for him to believe it, yes.
But it's my understanding you kept pushing this.
Yes, yes, with the police department.
And then eventually what happened?
He was convicted. He pled guilty. She was justified.
And he's serving, is it 3 years in state prison?
Yes.
That's all somebody said. Okay. If you could give us a sense how this affected your life, because again, as I said, you made a very powerful statement. Tell us how it affected your life.
I went through a depression where I was wearing all black because that was the color I felt comfortable in. I would eat till 2 in the morning. I wouldn't be able to get to sleep till 4 in the morning. I'd have nightmares every night, and I had suicidal thoughts.
And other kids found out about this?
Yes, they did.
And they made it real tough on you, didn't they?
Yes.
You had to change schools?
Yes, I did.
Could I ask why, again, it's very unusual for somebody who's your age, why you feel so strongly about talking about this?
I want other kids to be able to come forward, because if they can see that I have the courage, they can.
Is it hard for you? LaToya said it's still hard it's got to be hard for you.
Yes, it is. Very hard.
Have you been, we're going to meet your therapist, I think, in the next segment, but have you felt better about it since you've started talking about it?
Yes, I have.
LaToya, what do you think when you listen to this young person?
It sounds like my story. It sounds like so many other stories that I've heard. It's the exact same story. You do try to commit suicide. You don't feel worthy of anything. And it's really sad, but I must say that she's very courageous because she spoke out at a very young age, which is something I didn't do. And that's why I'm here today. I'm encouraging other people to speak out at a young age before it scars you for life. And that's what's so wonderful about her, that she was able to come forward and speak out.
Part of what happens when you're talking about incest is that people think you make it up. The burden of proof is on the survivor. Now, did anybody ever say you're making this up,
Yes.
Desiree?
Lots of people did.
LaToya, anybody ever say you're making?
Same with me. They don't believe it. They don't want to believe it. For some reason, they don't want to accept it. And it's a shame because we're the victims. And it's really sad. And we're going through so much inside. They have no idea. When it gets to the point where you want to commit suicide, where you don't want to live anymore, something's wrong. Something's terribly wrong.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to meet Dr. Helen, who's the therapist who's been helping Desiree and countless other survivors of incest. We'll be back.
Want an adjustable bed, but don't think you can afford one? Then you haven't priced Craftmatic adjustable beds lately. Craftmatic Model 2 beds cost hundreds less than these quality flat beds. And this Craftmatic Model 3 is available at 50% of Craftmatic 2's low cost. 50%. Craftmatic Model 3 and 2 beds adjust to all these healthful positions and offer optional heat and massage, yet cost less than these quality flat beds. Get our free catalog by mail, including information on Craftmatic 3s at savings of 50% of Craftmatic 2's low cost.
Hello, I'd like to receive your free catalog and 50% information by mail.
Certainly, sir.
It's easy, so call for this free catalog right away.
Call toll-free 1-800-435-4200. That's 1-800-435-4200 toll-free. 1-800-435-4200.
Are you stuck in your present job with no real chance to get ahead?
Discover the excitement of a career training in the medical field.
Call now for this National Education Center brochure. In just a few months, you could be helping a doctor with patients or running the front office.
Call now for a brochure. There are day and evening classes. Train full or part-time. Even keep your present job while you learn.
For a brochure on career training in the medical field, call 800-253-7744. Call now, 800-253-7744.
Looks great. You know, you are looking entirely too young lately. How come your skin looks so good?
Well, I've been taking good care of it.
Yeah, with what?
Oh, this great new moisturizer from Suave.
Suave? I figured you were using some $20 an ounce stuff.
Not me.
Introducing Suave's new replenishing facial moisturizer. It keeps skin looking as smooth and young as expensive moisturizers, but for less.
So your skin looks great. You're saving money. This annoys me.
Oh, come on.
Now beautiful skin doesn't have to cost a fortune with Suave facial care.
If you or your husband is going through a midlife crisis and it's destroying your marriage, please call 1-800-370-2712.
We're back now talking with incest survivors LaToya Jackson and Desiree Bartak. And joining us right now is Desiree's therapist, Dr. Helen Sheska, who empathizes with the pain that these folks go through because you went through it yourself.
Yes.
Give us a sense of how this affects a survivor in terms of, you know, self-esteem and that sort of thing.
There's just a number of different ways, you know, low self-esteem, the shame that goes with it, the guilt that goes with it, the feeling responsible somehow, especially in younger children, because younger children, they tend to have think the world revolves around them, so if anything happens, they think it's their fault. So that happens a lot too, and the first interaction with an adult who does something like this, it sets the tone for the whole rest of their life and how their interaction's going to be with that sex.
So you're saying that it can affect the way their interpersonal relationships are?
Definitely, very definitely.
LaToya, let me ask, I mean, have you seen how this has impacted on your personality or your ability to relate to other people?
Oh yes, I was very withdrawn. Anyone that knew me or knew my family would tell you that I would not speak to anyone. I would stay to myself. I was very quiet. And I felt the same way she did, the same way Desiree did. You want to get out of this mold, but you can't for some odd reason, and you feel like you're the one that's wrong.
And you, Desiree, I mean, did you feel like, she mentioned, Dr. Helen mentioned blame. Did you somehow say, what did I do? Why is he doing this?
Yes. I thought I did something wrong for a very long time.
That's very common. That's, you know, that's a lot, the patterns that we've heard today are very common in molest survivors. And they carry this with them into adulthood. That's what's so wonderful about Desiree being able to come forward now at an early age. And we have to, you know, commend her mother for that, because she was believed and supported her, and so she gets to do this work at an early age rather than having to wait until her 30s or 40s or 50s.
Let's have a round of applause for Wei Ann, the mother, shall we? Dr. Helen, let me answer, because people don't want to believe this. People are accused of, you know, telling stories, making this up, the pack of lies, as LaToya's parents have said.
Yeah.
Now, why is that?
It's denial. They don't want to believe anything this horrible could happen in any household, let alone in a celebrity's household, because we, you know, hold them up to this image that we have. And, you know, we were talking earlier that if somebody has an operation in a home, or their house burns down, or somebody falls and breaks a leg, everybody talks about it. But when this kind of damage goes on, it's all secret. Even when the parents say, okay, I believe you, and they file reports and everything, then they say to the kid, okay, but we won't talk about it anymore. It's always pushed under the rug because people are so uncomfortable with it.
And that's what you're saying still is going on, LaToya.
Yes. It's still going on to this day. I even tried to get my mother to ask me questions why, because I would say to her, I'm afraid to stay at home alone with my father. And she would never say why. And I would say, I don't want to be in the same room with him. I would try to get her to say why. We would watch television shows together about children who were molested. And I would walk out of the room crying. And she would never say, what's wrong? Why are you walking out? We were best friends. We did everything together. She never wanted to know why, because she knew why.
Okay, you had a question over here before we go into break. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say to LaToya is I've heard about this involving your family, and I wasn't really sure I believed it, but being here today and hearing you, I have a very close friend who had the exact same situation happen to her, the suicide attempts and everything exactly the same. And I'm looking into your eyes, and I totally believe everything you're saying, and I applaud you very much for doing what you're doing.
If you're going to be in the New York area and would like free tickets to our show, please call 1-800-771-2700.
Fat women starving for love.
Boys don't like fat girls.
It's a real sensitive issue.
On the next Jane Whitney Show.
When I weighed 350 pounds, some people turned their back on me. I felt worthless. Then I turned my back on myself. I felt a depression, very difficult to see behind my puffed up body. Then I changed my existence. I live today. You can too.
Called Janet Greason's A Place for Us.
1-800-543-3662. Because it's not what you're eating, it's what's eating you.
There's nothing special about me. If I can do it, you can too.
Overwhelming evidence indicates that the cure for the disease of illiteracy is the restoration of intensive systematic phonics in every classroom in America.
Learn to read with Hooked on Phonics, the musical reading program. Then, read to learn with SRA reading comprehension used by over 60 million people.
Hooked on Phonics worked for me.
Call 1-800-ABCDEFG.
I feel good inside and out.
Summer's Eve Douche, specially formulated to work with your body's own cleansing process so you can feel cleaner, faster, naturally better.
A little help and I'm back to me.
Summer's Eve, for the clean that's more like you.
Dieters have different needs, so Accutrim made different formulas.
My appetite was humongous before Accutrim Maximum Strength.
I would lose my willpower after 3 p.m. until late day.
If it weren't for 16 Hour, I'd eat all day and all night.
Accutrim, one is right for you.
You might never get that room picked up or the stereo turned down, but at least you can get those whites completely clean with new Ultra Surf Plus bleaching action. Its bleaching action out-whitens ordinary detergents and removes odors entirely for a complete white, so you can be proud of how your family looks, even when you hope no one's looking. New Ultra Surf Plus bleaching action, the complete white.
He said he had never used one and he wasn't going to start now. So I told him, wasn't nothing jumping off then.
A lot of men think if they use one, they're giving in to a woman. But it's not about that at all.
It's about everybody. Gay men, straight men, lesbians, straight women.
Young people need to protect themselves too. It shouldn't be a problem if he really cares about you. I care. I care about my lover, and I care about myself.
Be careful. Be caring.
We're talking with LaToya Jackson and Desiree Bartak about the trauma of being incest survivors. Also with us is Gloria Allred, who's well known as a women's rights advocate and pioneer. She's with the firm of Allred, Morocco, Goldberg, and Ribicoff. Why did you take Desiree's case?
Well, I was very moved by Desiree's writing a letter to me. It's not every day that I get a letter from a 12-year-old who says that she wants to file a civil lawsuit and who is very angry about the child sexual abuse and who decides that she wants access to justice. And so I knew at that moment of reading it that she was someone I wanted to meet and someone I wanted to assist if there was any way possible to do that.
That is interesting. You wrote her a letter?
Yes, I did.
Why did you want to take it to Gloria Allred? I mean, she's very well known. She has a high profile. She wins her cases. Why did you write to her?
That's why.
Okay, Gloria, let me ask you, because I've heard you say that time and secrecy are on the side of the child molester. Why is that?
Well, of course, children have been encouraged by adults to keep it a secret, not to tell anyone, to hide their face, not to speak out publicly. All of that only rewards and protects the abuser of children, because then he gets to do his dirty deeds again, perhaps to someone else in the future, and he gets to be rewarded by not having any consequences that he has to pay. By Desiree having the courage to speak out, to go to the criminal justice system, it turns out that now he is pleading guilty, that he has been sentenced to state prison. She was able to see him actually put in handcuffs this week and taken off to jail, and all of that is because she was willing to speak out and have access to the criminal justice system. Now she's also filed a civil lawsuit seeking damages against him to recover for her therapy bills and her medical bills and her pain and suffering, and to seek punitive damages for the terrible punishment that he has inflicted on her.
I don't know where I heard this, but you wanted her to be there to see him sentenced. That was important to you. Why?
It was important to her, and then it was important to the rest of us to support her in that. Also, she took another unique step, and that was that she actually spoke to the judge in court about the sentence that she believed that this sexual abuser should receive. In fact, the probation department was recommending, are you ready for this? Probation. 1 year in county jail and 5 years of probation. The maximum sentence that he could have received was 8 years in prison. The minimum was actually 3 years, and they were recommending this probation. I think it made a big difference that Desiree spoke to the judge on the record, told how much she was damaged, hurt, harmed, and because she had the courage to speak out, he didn't get probation. He got 3 years in the state prison, and I think she should be commended for that.
Go ahead, Latoya.
I think that what a lot of abusers don't realize is that while they're doing this and they're going through this act of abusing people, they're having fun and they enjoy what they're doing at that particular time. But what they fail to remember and to forget is that one day the victim is going to tell eventually. It may not be that day or that year or 5 years later, but somewhere down along the road, we're going to come out and we're going to speak out and we're going to tell on you, and it's going to happen. And they don't realize that while they're abusing you.
Okay.
The other important thing for Desiree being in court and also reading her statement that I think is real important to bring out for the other children that are out there and even the other adults too, is that when you're a victim like this, you've had your power as a child, your power as a female, your power as a person taken away from you. Because of her statement to the judge and watching him handcuffed and taken away, Desiree gets to get some of that power back.
Very important point. Another break. We'll be back. Another break.
I wish my son could live a full, healthy life where he felt rewarded and was always learning.
Encyclopedia Britannica presents a parent's wish list.
I think it's every parent's dream maybe to have a doctor in the family.
I think what I want is the best education she could get.
I would like her to be successful in what she perceives as success.
Every parent has a wish list for their child, and with the help of the new Encyclopedia Britannica, many of those wishes can come true. Encyclopedia Britannica is the finest home learning program in the world. A 32-volume family reference library that will give your child an important advantage all through the school years and help make every good thing you wish for your child come true.
I'd like for them to be productive, to be helpful.
To get more information on the new Encyclopedia Britannica, call for this free color booklet now. And just for previewing Encyclopedia Britannica in your home, you'll get this handsome 3-volume desk reference set as a free gift.
I want them to go to college. That's my biggest dream, and make something out of themselves.
You can begin to fulfill the hopes and dreams for your child's future with just one phone call. So call now.
Our wishes are that he just lives up to the potential that he has.
I want my kids to be happy, and I think happiness comes through freedom of choice. And I believe education is the key to that.
For your free Encyclopedia Britannica information booklet, call now.
1-800-862-6900.
When I was looking for a dentist, I wanted someone I could trust. I called 1-800-DENTIST because I liked the fact that they don't own dental offices. I called another service, and they just wanted to send me to their nearest office. I needed more information, and I needed a dentist who saw children and had flexible hours. I feel that 1-800-DENTIST is an objective service. All the dentists are pre-screened, and they provide a lot of information about them. But most importantly, I feel that it's information I can trust.
Remember when rock was young? Relive it at the Academy in Golden Gate Park.
If you and your spouse are constantly competing with each other and it's creating stress in your marriage, please call 1-800-370-2712. Back now talking with incest survivors, including Latoya Jackson. You have a question?
Yes, Latoya, I was wondering, seeing how Desiree, it's helped her to go ahead and prosecute her abuser, do you feel that you'll be doing the same anytime soon, or would you want to?
I don't know. I've given it a thought. A lot of interviewers have asked me about that. I truly feel that my father doesn't belong in jail. He's a very old man. I feel that he belongs in the chair of a psychiatrist instead of the jail. He needs help.
Okay. Let me ask you, LaToya, you've been very close to Michael, and there are, it seems, some parallels in terms of the fact that you seem to be very quiet and sort of reclusive almost, and yet you can be very overt and out there during your performance. Do you think this has affected Michael in some way?
Yes, very much so. The patterns of just, well, actually, when I post for Playboy, I did the pictorial there for Playboy, and that was just to show my parents, this is my life, this is my independence, this is something I want to do, and you can't stop me from doing it or prevent me from doing it. And he called me and he says, I know why you did that. And he told me the exact reasons, and he says, that's why I behave the way I do on stage. That's, well, you know, some of the things that he does on stage. And that's one of the reasons why.
This can also be a pattern for molest victims too. There's, with the sexuality, there seems to be a swing, okay, in that a lot of them talk about going through periods of promiscuity and being real sexual because that's how they know how to relate to other people and how to relate to the world. And then you'll talk to a lot of victims. Most of the victims that I deal with go through a long stage. Once they're in a marriage and feel safe and comfortable where there's no sexuality at all.
And what's interesting now, Jane, is we have a whole new era of empowerment. Right. Because what this really is an abuse of power by the person who is in it, a father, a godfather, an uncle, a stepfather, a friend of the family, who is abusing his trust over a person who's not in power. The ultimate powerless person is the child. By being able to have access to the criminal justice system, by filing civil lawsuits for damages, the child is having power once again. This is what is so important.
But the system is not exactly stacked currently in most states to aid the victim, it's my understanding.
In many cases it is not, but a lot of it is changing. I really think that anyone who is abused ought to seek the advice of an attorney in their own state and find out what they can do against the abuser, because the child should be compensated for the harm, and also the abuser should be punished. And unless you go to an attorney and find out what you can do and whether you are still within the time limit to do it, you will never know. I want to add, too, that many adults now are suing for the child sexual abuse that was inflicted on them when they were a child. And in places like California, my home state, and in some other states, they can now do that.
They've extended the statute of limitations.
Yes.
Okay.
Jane, I think that's an important point that Gloria brought up, too, that this is not a sexual act. This is a power act, okay? This is a crime of power and of abuse, and it has nothing to do with sexuality.
Can't be said often enough. Thank you for saying it. We're going to take another break. We'll be back.
Now, from Channel 5 Eyewitness News.
Coming up today on Eyewitness News at 5, with Boris Yeltsin's power on the brink, President Clinton faces his first foreign policy test. We'll have the latest. The mosquito season that's upon us now will be 25% worse than average. Dr. Nancy Snyderman will tell you how to protect yourself and treat bites. And with the Oscars 1 week away, are the favorites that good or just old-timers who deserve a statue? Those stories and more at 5.
We won! I knew it!
Who's we, and what did we win?
Healthy Favorites Bologna.
We won Healthy Favorites Bologna?
No, Shelley, Healthy Favorites Bologna beat Healthy Choice in a national taste test.
Well, it is 97% fat-free.
Well, it won the taste test because it tastes better. Besides, it's from Oscar Mayer.
So it's not surprising it was the favorite.
It's not surprising we're the spokespeople either. Great taste, very little fat.
Healthy Favorites from Oscar Mayer, the taste test winner.
This is a test. Channel 5 is conducting a test of the emergency broadcast system. This is only a test. This is a test of the emergency broadcast system. The broadcasters of your area, in voluntary cooperation with federal, state, and local authorities, have developed this system to keep you informed in the event of an emergency. If this had been an actual emergency, the attention signal you just heard would have been followed by official information, news, or instructions on KPIX. This concludes this test of the emergency broadcast system.
Guests of our show stay at the beautiful Bostonian Hotel in historic Faneuil Hall in downtown Boston.
Back now, we're going to try and sneak in a few audience questions. Ma'am, you had a question? Go ahead.
I just wanted to ask LaToya if she knew if it was possible if any of the boys in the family had been molested or sexually abused.
No, I don't know. I often wondered, though, because of their behavior. But it's something that you don't talk about. You don't mention it to one another.
Okay.
But you often wonder, though.
Okay, you had something. Stand up. Stand up for me.
You remarked that your mother and you were best of friends,
Yes.
and you wonder why your mother didn't help.
Yes.
And you said, after all, she's of the same blood as I am, but my father isn't. I was wondering why you said that. Isn't he your real father?
No, he is my real father, but what I'm saying is that he's not related to her. And to watch a man do this to her own daughter, I'm her blood. He's not her blood. She's my blood.
Okay. Oh, all right. That answers that.
Thank you. No, that's an important point to clear up. Okay. You had something over here?
I just want to say that for LaToya and Desiree, you two are good role models for the older people who are going through it now, for LaToya, and for Desiree, for kids who are going through it at a young stage. And I think your mother should really be proud of herself for believing you in the first place and for taking action.
Yes, very much so.
Too, that I'm very proud of her mother, and I want to say that there are many millions of mothers in this nation who are suffering terribly when they find out that their children have been sexually abused, and they don't know that their children are being sexually abused. And I suggest to those mothers, when they do find out, bond with your child, be supportive of your child, help your child, because the child's been isolated and the child needs your support now. Take the child to the doctor, take the child to a therapist, to a lawyer, to the police, and help your child, and that's the best thing you can do.
I think we're all in great admiration of all of everybody up on the set, and as we go out, a happy note, LaToya, something for everybody to watch for, because you are going to have LaToya Jackson's International Exotic Club Tour. It can be seen on cable, TV, pay-per-view, and it's going to start March 1st, and we didn't want to go away without mentioning that. We thank you. Oh, she's like, who cares? Okay. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us. Thank you. Have a great...
Watch The Mistress Who Wouldn't Take No for an Answer on Inside Edition at 4:30. The Golden Girls are next on Channel 5.
And air date to Burrell's transcripts, Post Office Box 7,